if I told you that a business with zero equipment could still be worth millions of dollars? No ovens, no machinery, no fancy tools, just customers, revenue, and pure profit. So how do you value a business like that? And more importantly, how do you make sure that you don't overpay for something that doesn't even have a toaster oven? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to value a business that doesn't come with any equipment, why it might actually be a good thing, and how to make sure you don't get ripped off in the process. Let's dive in. Hi, my name's Trent Lee. I've sold over 600 businesses, and for the last 5 years in a row, I've been named the #1 business broker in the country for the most closed transactions per year. And I make these videos so that one day, when you want to look at buying or selling a business, you'll reach out to me to have me help you through that process. So, why equipment or the lack of it matters in a business valuation? Most buyers think that when they buy a business, they're buying stuff. Oven, chairs, furniture, fixtures, equipment, computers, tangible assets, that kind of thing. But what happens when a business doesn't own any of that? Does that make it worthless or worth less? Absolutely not. Instead of focusing on the physical assets, we shift our focus to cash flow. A business that doesn't own any equipment still generating profit and revenue. At the end of the day, revenue is what you're really buying. Think of it like buying a bakery that rents space in a commercial kitchen instead of owning or leasing the space. The equipment isn't theirs, but the customers, the brand, the recipes, the name, the goodwill, the reputation, the profits are. That's what makes a real difference, and that's what makes it valuable. Let's talk about Mark. Mark wanted to buy a local coffee roasting business. It had great revenue, a loyal customer base, and zero owned equipment. Why? Because they roasted the beans in a shared commissary kitchen. The equipment was all leased and rented. Mark thought if there's no equipment, then maybe the company isn't worth as much. That's not how it works. I walked Mark through the numbers. The business was pulling in over $400,000 a year revenue and had over $100,000 of seller's discretionary earnings on the tax returns. That's the real gold. Equipment can break down, but a strong customer base with cash flow, historical cash flow, that's lasting value. In the end, Mark bought the business for 2 times earnings, or $200,000. And in 2 years, he was making more than his old job. Moral of the story? Equipment isn't everything. Profit margins are. So if you're looking at a business without any equipment, your best bet is to value the business on a market-based approach and an income-based approach. One where you look at the historical profit and how other businesses in the similar size and nature have been selling from a multiple of earnings, rather than taking the equipment value of the business. But just because a business doesn't own the equipment doesn't mean it's risk-free. Here's what you need to watch out for: leased equipment risk. If the commercial kitchen that they rent out suddenly raises its price or shuts down, what happens to you? You could be left scrambling. There's a risk to be aware of there. What about customer retention risk? If the business relies heavily on relationships with a few key customers, losing 1 or 2 could destroy the revenue, so be careful. There's also scalability issues. If your goal is to grow, will you eventually need your own equipment and your own space? If so, factor that into the cost so you can protect yourself based on future projections. Get a long-term lease agreement for any shared space. This is a must. And ask for customer retention data. How long do customers typically stick around? If you plan for the future, and if you'll need your own equipment later, make sure it fits within the budget. If a business has no equipment, you need to negotiate differently. Here's what you need to do. Lower your down payment. Since there are no hard assets, the seller should be willing to finance more of the deal. Push for seller financing. Another option is an earnout. Offer part of the purchase price based on future performance. If the revenue stays strong, the seller will get paid. But if the revenue drops, so does the payout. Contingencies are something else to be aware of. Add a clause in the contract that protects you if the shared kitchen raises rent or key customers leave. So now you know why a business without equipment can still be valuable, how to properly approach these type of valuations or these type of businesses when valuing them, and the risks to look out for. You also need to make sure that you structure the deals smartly. If you're thinking about buying or selling a business, I can help you navigate the complexities and get the best deal possible. Reach out to me anytime. Let's make sure that you don't overpay and, or worse, get stuck with a bad deal.